Today I wanted to make another part of thinking about how would it be, how would it change us? Like, what if humans had the smelling sense of a dog, like of the density of a dog? We already made two kind of videos for this thought experiment. Yesterday I talked about how the smelling sense of a dog would affect more so like our architecture in our homes, and how it potentially could affect or what like influence it could have for like more public buildings and navigation, and how the smelling sense of a dog would allow us to kind of have mental maps of the density and the texture and the chemical composition of the air around us, and not just be as much of like an empty space how we perceive it, I think, mostly right now. I think today I wanted to look a little bit further into just how would a smelling sense of a dog potentially could change our perception. Yesterday again, we looked a little bit at how it could make us have and create mental maps of like densities and textures and how it change and the airflows that we would be a lot more aware of. So like the empty space, like the air that is around us. And I think a lot of that we would perceive and feel and have as an experience mostly as empty space, with like very rare occasions actually in our daily lives of like smelling strong sense in a spatial way. And I think having a strong sense like a dog would fill the rooms a lot more. We would have a lot of more different experiences, I would assume, in a spatial way. And not just, I think, also in a spatial way, we have a lot more of an awareness of how it would change over time and how it's different from like a place to another place. But my assumption, what I really find fascinating, is to think about how a smelling sense of a dog could change the awareness of time and how we perceive and look at time. Because I think a lot of our other senses, like our visual sense, of course, with our visual sense, we very clearly can see marks of the past. Like I could like push over like my mug and spill out some things, and someone comes in and sees, okay, someone pushed that over. Stuff like that. Something can be dirty, broken, in some state. We can see remnants of the past visually, like a footmark, some kind of things. In games, we use it for a lot of times for environment storytelling, and we just can get a lot of cues of what would happen in the past out of visual things. But I don't think that it's that big a part of the actual sensual experience of vision to experience the past thing, because I think a lot of times, or most of the experience that we have with vision, is probably still very immediate. It's like something's moving right now. It's very like most of our senses, I think, are very immediate, like very sensitive about now, and not as much experience things of the past. Our visual sense is the one that can do that probably the best, from which we currently have. But I think that potentially could very much change with having the smelling sense of a dog. Because if we first look at all of the other senses again, with the visual sense, there's the possibility that we perceive things of the past if they're just signs left over. Our hearing sense, yes, I mean, kind of. The issue with the hearing sense is you have to hear things from very far away to like hear something from the past, like thunder, for example. A thunder, if you hear them, you see the lightning strike, and most of the time we see them in a decent far away. Like hopefully we don't see them very much around us. Then the thunder would be a lot more immediate. But like we all know that the disconnection of seeing a lightning strike and then hearing the thunder, and it's the traveling time of sound waves. So to hear a past sound wave in like just nature and like normal lives and days is a difficult thing, because it mostly depends on travel time of the sound waves. And that means mostly we hear very distant things, and for them there's not that much of a connection, that what we're hearing is like far away because we probably don't see it. Again, with like a lightning strike, that's one of the occasions I think where it's very universally known and experienced, this connection of seeing a lightning strike happening far away and only seconds later hearing the actual thunder of it. And I think probably the only really ways that we experience these kinds of the past and more so technological things. So like this video, you watch something that I've recorded in the past, you see it and you hear it, sure. But I would say that's a very different kind of experience from actual experience on like a sensory foundational thing of the past. Because I think with smelling, that's very different. I think with smelling, if we just look at our dogs, they just smell where like other dogs have passed. They know that because they can smell them. They can smell the marks of them. So like the idea of like seeing footmarks and tracks and stuff like that is a lot more immediate and a lot more foundational to the smelling sense to, I would assume, all of the other senses. With like the smelling sense, with having such a strong smelling sense that you could be aware of those things, you would have a lot more of an insight of what kind of things or what kind of persons or beings or animals, potentially also what time around traveled on which area, because well, the scent is still lingering in a certain way and how they're moving. I mean, dogs can track people even like weeks after and follow like their paths, how they were moving through the area. So we would be aware of that too a lot more. So we would actually have a lot more presence and a lot more as a just primary way of actually perceiving things that happened in the past, which I think our senses in this way, our human senses are not giving us. Our human senses are very much rooting us here in the present. But with a sense, with the smelling sense of a dog, I think our perspective and just how we think and how we perceive and how that changes how we think about time could potentially change, because we just have a lot bigger of a picture and just a more daily and like casual and like just it would be just a very normal thing every day to perceive things of like what happened yesterday and the week before and like who's walking there. Like if I go out of the street, I have no idea who walked on there on this week. I mean, of course, like if I had this many, wouldn't know who these people potentially were, but I would know like, okay, today there was a lot of traffic. Today there's not as much. I would go out at like just a street and I would get an experience of who was walking here. Like just a few minutes ago, like an hour yesterday, the weeks, how has it changed? We would have an awareness and a sense for this, which we currently don't have. And I think that would change. I don't know how that would change our experience of time, but in some way it would change it. The past would be a lot more present in the present in the here and now. So maybe it would pull, because we humans are very much focused on the here and now, and especially on the future. We are very much a species who is very much centered on the future, and in some ways also about, especially these times, about abusing the potential futures and bringing them into the now. We are a lot of times we're trying to extract value from the future and having them right now. I would assume if you had a lot stronger of just sensory inputs that root us more with the now and with the past, our focus wouldn't necessarily switch from the future, but the past would become a lot more important than it might be for us right now. It become a lot more important in the present, and it would just become a lot more important in how we think about things. Like maybe now would become smaller. Maybe one way it could change our experience of time is that because we're that centered in the future with like our prediction models in our head and our capable mind that is able to think about what if we do, we can like simulate things, how will things go out and like try try different things in our mind before we connect to them, and how we can collaborate with other people to get what we want, and where we think about what futures do we envision and do we want to have, and then what do we need to do now to get there. That's kind of one of the strong abilities that we as humans have, and why we are so thinking much about the future, because, well, that's what we can, so we do it. But with a smelling sense of a dog, the past would be more present, and it would be a bigger part of our processing, and maybe that would lead to that now becomes actually smaller. Maybe we would be a lot in the again, still in the future, with like our brain that thinks in the way that it does, and it would definitely change because we would have developed with a lot stronger of a smelling sense. So we would still be very much in the future, but now we are more so, I think, in the future, and that makes the present very important, because the present is how we change the future. But with a strong smelling sense that is rooted a lot more and brings us a lot closer to things happening in the past, and being that just a very strong and important part of everyday experience. It could be that the future and the future would still be elevated, but I think that the past potentially could make a bigger part of our lives, and that could shrink the area and the space that the now and the present could be a little bit less important, potentially, in our experience and in our culture. Maybe that could be one way how that could play out if you would have developed with something like that. It's difficult to think about if we as humans, as a species, developed with such a strong smelling sense, would we potentially have not gotten to these prediction capabilities that we have about the future as much, because we were just a little bit too busy with the past. But also we could think in the other way around. Having a lot more knowledge of the past gives us just more information, just more tools, and just more knowledge to predict, because we can see more of, well, how are things like moved, and how was the past a little bit more present. We have just a little bit more, maybe just a little bit more rooted, a little bit more capacity of our head, thinking about the past and processing it and modeling it out. Through the past, we potentially have more prediction capabilities for the future, so this relationship would probably enhance again. I would assume that it would make them now, the present would be become a little bit more and become a little bit less significant, but it could strengthen the relationship because we are living a lot more in the past. This could increase our way to predict and work with the future. So like the relationship of the past shapes the future could be stronger than we are now changing the future, and we would have a bigger picture than we would have right now. I mean, that we would of course have, if we have just more and better senses, we would have a bigger picture, and we would think more about it. Yes. So I would assume most likely they're present in some way or form. I don't really know what that would exactly mean, but potentially would become less important, and the past and the future potentially even more important, especially the past, and through the past, the future. I am not sure where to go from here, to be honest. What other things have we not thought about yet when it just comes about the thought experiment? If we had such a strong smelling sense, how we're looking at the time. We are nearly over. So I would say let's just keep it at this and wrap it up. If I don't know where to go, let's just end it here. That will then potentially be the last part of this. Maybe I will make another video about this topic when actually when I know how would format it and make it in a way that people would want to watch it, because currently it's just for me to have fun with the topic and not for you to watch it. I had fun doing this. I think this topic is at this point probably used up enough. I mean, I already made 3 videos about it, and I just don't know where to think more about it from here, at least not in these videos. I think we're done with this. So I hope you have a nice day.